Welcome back. This is Newsnight. U.S. President Donald Trump calls the U.S. Supreme Court's decision to strike down his sweeping tariffs deeply disappointing as he announced a new 10% levy on global imports. With a 6-3 majority, the court ruled Trump exceeded his authority when he imposed tariffs via a law reserved for national emergencies. They say he needs congressional approval to impose taxes on imports. As expected, Trump says he will attempt to reimpose tariffs, but he's yet to spell out the detail. The court's ruling applies to Trump's so-called Liberation Day tariffs, but not individual tariffs he imposed on specific countries or products. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by Ambassador Joe Keshi. He's a former Nigeria diplomat to the United States. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for joining us on Newsnight.
Thanks for having pleasure being with you.
I wonder if you listened to the entire press conference today, the speech and the press conference by Donald Trump. The Supreme Court's ruling says that Congress and not the president holds the constitutional power to levy tariffs. Trump claims he still has the authority and is exploring other methods to impose even more. How unprecedented is it for a U.S. president to challenge the Supreme Court in this way?
Well, Trump has always felt that he's above the law and that he can do whatever he likes. And as a matter of fact, he's done a number of things. Regrettably, the Supreme Court has sided with some, but I think this is very devastating for him. And you can see that in his press conference, he was more or less not the usual ebullient Trump, but a Trump that is worried, very uncoordinated, and you can actually see that he felt the impact of that judgment, and he is very much aware of the likelihood that this could cause him a lot of problems. And the issue is very simple. And he was told before, look, some members of the Congress tried to warn him when he started with his tariff that you need congressional approval. But he felt that no, he could do whatever he wanted to do. And the consequences is what has just happened to him, and the government of the United States today. And it's a lesson for presidents that, look, if you play by the books, by the law, you are unlikely to get into this kind of embarrassing situation. And although he said he was going to impose, more taxes and everything, my first reaction to that was to say, if I have to use Nigerian language, shakara, because you could, just trying to boast, exude confidence that no, I'm not defeated yet. I'm going to go back and do what I want to do. But I can assure you that if they go to court again, the Supreme Court will likely take the same position. And all over the world, there is some relief and happiness that this has happened.
Okay, I was just going to ask you about the likely reaction from the rest of the world, because from a foreign policy perspective, what signal will this be sending about the stability and predictability of U.S. trade policy?
No, look, the world has been worried about Trump's policies, particularly as it concerns foreign policy, as you pointed out. And the tariff itself has been, a major issue for a number of countries. And so there is some relief in a number of capitals, all over the world today. And everybody is issuing one kind of statement or the other, cautiously, I would say, but there is a kind of, triumphant celebration around the world that this has happened,
That's the word to watch out for, Ambassador, because as you did listen to Trump, he says he has the authority, he's going ahead and even announced a 10% global tariff to be included to existing ones. So he's doubling down. It doesn't look like he's taking the defeatist position. But when Trump publicly accuses the court of being swayed by foreign interests, even if that's symbolic, Ambassador, how might such rhetoric affect U.S. relations with trading partners? beyond the tariffs themselves, when your Supreme Court, when you say as a president that your Supreme Court is being swayed by foreign interests?
I'm not too sure if you know the way the U.S. System operates. I'm not too sure that the United States Supreme Court will be worried about that statement. And in any case, everybody knows Trump and his hyperboles and his abusive language. When the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Trump, Trump praised the Supreme Court, very highly. He commended the Supreme Court in so many ways. And now they have ruled against one of his major or significant policies. He's very upset. He is angry. And typically when Trump is angry, he goes into an abusive mood. And that's exactly what you have seen, And if you notice, he singled out, is it Kavanaugh, the only judge, that he appointed, one of the judges that he appointed that kind of took a very cautious position to, But the truth of the matter is that, look, what he said, what Trump said, would not affect the decision, would not affect the personnel on the bench of the Supreme Court. They've done that, they've ruled in accordance with the law, and that's exactly how it should operate.
It was Justice Kavanaugh he singled out, even though he praised the 3 dissenting justices. He called Kavanaugh a genius. Could you believe that? And
no, that is typical. That is typical Trump. If you side him, he praises you out of this world. If you go against him, of course, he becomes, very abusive and insulting. So it's nothing strange. Look, nothing that has happened today in terms of Trump's reaction. If you look at his body language, if you look at how he was rambling through his speech, you will know that he felt very devastated by the Supreme Court judgment. And that's the honest truth.
Indeed, there's a lot to unpack, including will those monies, over $175 billion, be refunded to the countries and companies that have paid since over 300 days of liberation that has existed so far before this ruling. But Ambassador Joe Keshi, we thank you always for your time on Newsnight. Thank you very much.